Imagine a sound so deep, it vibrates in your chest. It isn't thunder. It isn't an earthquake. It is the sound of footsteps. 800,000 pairs of boots, marching in unison, creating a rhythm that signals the end of the world. The year is 383 AD. The location is China. To the north, a force has assembled that defies logic. An army so vast, the emperor boasted that if every soldier threw their riding whip into the Yangtze River, the flow of water would stop completely. They are coming to crush the last remnants of the Han Chinese civilization huddled in the south. The defenders are outnumbered 10-1. By all logical accounts, this is not about to be a battle. It is about to be an execution. But on a cold November day, on the banks of the Fei River, history did not follow the script. In the span of a single afternoon, the largest army the world had ever seen didn't just lose. They vanished. They were destroyed not by a nuclear bomb, not by machine guns, but by a single, catastrophic mistake, and the greatest panic attack in human history. This is the story of the Battle of Fei River. To understand the sheer insanity of this battle, we must look at the men who started it, Fu Jian. China was in the era of the 16 Kingdoms, a time of absolute chaos, warlords, and blood. But Fu Jian was different. He was a visionary. He was a conqueror. Leading the former Qin state, Fu Jian did the impossible. He unified all of northern China. He was an ethnic minority, but he embraced Chinese culture. He built roads, he reformed laws, and he built an unstoppable military machine. But ambition is a dangerous drug. By 383 AD, he wanted the ultimate prize, the south. The Eastern Jin dynasty. His generals begged him not to go. His own brother warned him, saying that the Yangtze is a natural barrier, and the Jin army fights for their homes. He was told to wait. But Fu Jian laughed. He was the man who had united the north. He believed his army was invincible. He famously said, "My army is so huge that if I command my men to toss their whips into the river, it will sever the stream. What can a tiny river do to stop me?" And so, he mobilized. Historians debate the numbers, but the records claim he marched with over 600,000 infantry and 270,000 cavalry. Even if we cut that number in half, it was still a force capable of crushing nations. However, there was a crack in the armor. This wasn't a unified army. It was a Frankenstein's monster, made up of conquered peoples, the Xianbei, the Chang, the Xiongnu, and Han Chinese forced into service. They marched south not out of loyalty, but out of fear. In the south, panic should have set in. The Jin court was in turmoil. But the defense fell to a man who seemed to have ice water in his veins. Xie An legend says when Xie An received the news of the invasion, he didn't scream. He didn't call a war council. He simply continued playing a game of Go with a friend. When his friend asked about the news, Xie An calmly placed a stone on the board and said, "Oh, it seems the children in the north have come down for a visit." But behind this calm facade, Xie An knew the reality. He dispatched his younger brother, Xie Shi, and his nephew, the brilliant General Xie An, with the Beifu army. These were 80,000 elite troops. Think of them as the Spartans of China. They were professional, well-fed, and fighting with their backs to the wall. They knew that if they lost, their culture, their families, and their way of life would be erased. It is November, 383 AD. The two forces meet at the Fei River. To the north, the Qin army stretches as far as the eye can see. They are so numerous that they cannot even deploy properly. They are cramped, restless, and tired from the long march. To the south, the small Jin army stands in formation. It is a stalemate. The Qin cannot cross without being attacked. The Jin cannot cross without being slaughtered. This is where the battle turns from a military conflict into a psychological thriller. General Xie An knew he couldn't win a fair fight. He needed to induce chaos. He sent a messenger to the great Emperor Fu Jian with a bold, almost insulting proposal. The message read, "Your Excellency, you have led your massive army deep into our territory. But you are lined up right along the riverbank. This means we cannot fight, and you cannot maneuver. If you truly wish to prove your might, pull your troops back slightly. Give us space to cross the river. Then, we can have a fair, decisive battle." Most commanders would have laughed and fired arrows at the messenger. But Fu Jian saw an opportunity. He thought he could outsmart the Jin. He planned to let them cross halfway. When they were in the middle of the river, wet, disorganized, and vulnerable, he would unleash his heavy cavalry and trample them into the mud. He agreed to the proposal. It seemed like a tactical masterstroke. In reality, he had just signed the death warrant for his empire. The order was given to retreat slightly. To make room. Now, imagine the situation. You are a conscript in the rear of the Qin army. You can't see the river. You don't know the plan. You are tired, hungry, and terrified. Suddenly, the officers in front of you are shouting to move back. You see the banners moving away from the enemy. Confusion ripples through the ranks. Why are we retreating? Did we lose? Is the enemy here? And then, the spark that ignited the powder keg. Hidden within the Qin army was a captured Jin official named Zhu Su. He had been waiting for this moment. From the middle of the formation, seeing the confusion, he shouted at the top of his lungs. The Qin army has been defeated. The Qin army has lost. Panic is contagious. More contagious than any virus. The rear guard, thinking the front line had collapsed, turned and ran. The front line, seeing the rear guard run, thought they were being flanked. The orderly retreat turned into a stampede. At that exact moment, the 8,000 elite Jin cavalry crossed the river. They didn't hesitate. They slammed into the confused, retreating mass like a hammer into glass. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a crush. Hundreds of thousands of men were pushed toward the north. They trampled each other. They fell into ravines. The history books record a chilling detail. The corpses of the fallen were so numerous, they dammed the flow of the river. The once mighty army became a mob of terrified individuals, each fighting only to escape the person running next to them. Emperor Fu Jian, the man who commanded 1,000,000 men, found himself fleeing alone. He was so terrified, so broken by the sudden collapse, that as the wind howled through the trees and the bushes rustled, he thought the plants were Jin soldiers chasing him. This gave birth to the famous Chinese idiom, the sound of the wind and the cry of cranes, meaning to be frightened by the slightest sound. The numbers are staggering. It is estimated that over 70% of the Qin army died that day. Hundreds of thousands of men perished. Not mostly from combat, but from the stampede, hunger, and exposure during the chaotic retreat back north. The former Qin Empire imploded almost overnight. The tribes Fu Jian had conquered rose up in rebellion. 2 years later, the great emperor was strangled to death by one of his former subordinates. China would remain divided for another 200 years. Back in the capital, the news reached Xie An. He finished his game of Go, calmly went to his room, and only then, in private, did he break the wooden clog of his shoe against the doorframe in pure excitement. The East was saved. The Battle of Fei River teaches us a brutal lesson about warfare. Numbers mean nothing without cohesion. An army of 1,000,000 lions led by arrogance will always lose to a pack of wolves led by discipline. On that day at the Fei River, the wind blew, the cranes cried, and an empire turned to dust. What do you think was the fatal flaw here? Was it Fu Jian's arrogance, or the brilliance of Xie An's psychological trap? Or perhaps, does an army simply become too big to control? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the forgotten Asian fronts, please hit that like button, it really helps the channel survive the algorithm. And if you want to be the first to witness the next major historical breakdown, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. We have many more stories of empires rising and falling in a single day coming up. Until next time.